Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show, live streaming across Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. It's our EFL weekend review. Joining me, it's Jason Booker here to chat all things Leeds United.
How are you, my friend?
I've
got the giggles because Steve just put a picture of me in the WhatsApp group. It's got under my skin. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm all good, mate. I'm all good.
Oh. Wow. We'll put some on our Twitter feed later, I think. Anyways, Steve Downs is here to chat all things Huddersfield Town. And we've got Gaz as well here joining us to chat all things the Bantams as well. We're going to kick things off, though. We're going to get our highlights of the weekend. Jason, we'll start with you, mate. Your highlight of the weekend?
My highlight of the weekend, is it too easy to say the comeback?
No, that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you can never beat a comeback, can you? Especially away from home. It's for me, it's what football's all about. You go through all them moments of misery and pain as a fan to hopefully come out the other end with them moments. I talk like unbelievably fondly about going to Southampton away in 2005 when I was 15. Nearly 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
When we were 3-0 down and came back to win 4-3, and not quite as dramatic as that, but to come back from 2-0 down at half-time to win 3-2 at the weekend against a good Norwich side is, highlight of my weekend anyway, certainly.
Indeed. Steve, your highlight of the weekend, mate?
Not losing. Not losing. That was pretty good. Well, the highlight of the weekend was the first 20 minutes of the football match, and then, the rest of it turned to crap. So, that was my highlight, to be honest.
Gaz, how about yourself? Your highlight of the weekend, mate?
For me, it's just the way that McDonald's got us playing. He's transformed. He's got us on the front foot, and what that's creating is the fans are bouncing off that, and the building that it gets the fans right behind them. The atmosphere goes up, and then it's like a positive vibes off each other. So just the front foot football and the way it's making the fans feel, and then obviously the way that the fans' reaction then spurs the players on even more. It's just such a transformation to what it was like under Hughes when it was just so negative.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some good highlights there. We'll move back to the Championship then. Jason, we did our post-match review on Saturday. I think we were both pretty elated. At halftime, it didn't look too promising, but an incredible turnaround. It's a couple of days since then. What are your thoughts on the game and how it went, and our new hero, Cry Somerville?
I mean, I've come down a little bit and I've tried to be a bit more objective again, because my kind of takings were that Norwich were really, really good first half, but I've seen a bit of fan kind of content elsewhere who don't quite rate Norwich. But I thought they were brilliant going forward. I've kind of tried to break it down and think about it a little bit more. And I think, I don't think the first half performance was that bad at the weekend. Defensively, we got caught napping from a corner and then conceded with one of the last touches of the first half. But in between that, we created a hatful of chances. And even though we conceded 2, we probably could have been 3 or 4-2 up at halftime if we'd have been a bit more clinical. And then, regardless of how that first half went, to have the guile and the quality and the gumption to get back into it second half and come back and take all 3 points. And, Norwich, I do think will be in the top 10 come the end of the season. I think they'll be in and around that battle for the playoffs. I think it's a huge 3 points. So maybe I have to just bring it down a peg or two from the excitement that you have right after the match is finished. But overall, to be able to do that and come back into that, and Daniel Farke, I mean, to make them changes and change the game in the way that he did with 20, 25 minutes to go. I mean, there were a moment where we had 6 attackers on. We had Dan James, Nonto, Bamford, Pirro, Rutter, and Somerville all on the pitch at one go. I mean, it was just crazy. We had literally Ampadu sat in front of the back 3, and then everybody else was forward. It was nuts.
And Farke said he basically was going man for man at that point. And you think, actually, just do that every game. We're probably better than 90% of the other Championship teams. I mean, it's certainly worked, didn't it?
I mentioned in the review that Daniel Farke's system is set up to kind of take teams late and drown them. And I think it's down to the game state that it kind of worked. You know, we were all guns blazing. Like I said, we'd created chances anyway during the game. And I think once we'd got that first goal, it was inevitable that we were going to score again. It was just whether we could then go on and take the win. But really, the second half, they couldn't lay a glove on us. So, you know, thankfully we came out with the 3 points. It's 3 wins on the spin as well, which was nice. And it leads into a big week for us because, like, the opposition aside, next Saturday, this would be a week in which we'd be hoping to now get 9 points, regardless. You know, I mean, considering where Town and Stoke are and would be then hoping to finish, and where we would be hoping to finish, it's a week in which we do really need to take 9 points if we're going to overhaul Ipswich. So,
can it be done? Do you think we can pip Ipswich going forward?
I think so. As I said at the on Saturday, I think Ipswich are going to have lulls and drops in the season, that they're not going to continue to just win every week. I think Leicester have got the quality to probably continue streaks into the rest of the season, but I would imagine that 1 or 2 injuries for Ipswich or a bit of a dip in form. Christmas time's always hard in the Championship, you know, coming straight up from League One. We all picked that they'd be in and around the playoff positions, but I think for them to just carry on winning at that kind of rate, I think is going to be extremely difficult. You know, you look at what we're able to do at the weekend, we turn to his bench and we've got the likes of Jadon Anthony and Bamford and you know, some of these players to come on and change games. They don't have that in the same kind of depth of quality. So they are playing way above themselves at the moment, whereas I think we're only going to continue to get better. I don't think you've seen the best of us yet. I think we are yet to see that, and yet we are still winning and picking up points for one of the form teams in the division. We're now up to 3rd, so I think we can, mate. I think we absolutely can. Whether we will or not, it's a different question because it's still 6 points, and Ipswich have obviously got Rotherham to play the game in hand that were cancelled on Friday night. But I think we can. I definitely think we can. I believe we're going to every game with a good chance of winning. We've got Leicester coming up too soon, which will be interesting.
That's going to be tasty.
Friday night on the telly.
Oh, no pumpkin picking then. Somerville, just a quick word on him. It's been an interesting time for him, hasn't it, at the club? Because he was one of those players, I mean, we mentioned on Saturday, really talented in the reserve team. I mean, Jesse Marsh publicly said last year about him, you know, hinted at attitude problems, saying Nonto had kind of straightened him out, he'd befriended him and kind of straightened him out. And you kind of wonder what the truth is, don't you, really? Because I just see a player who has been one of the most dedicated to Leeds in a summer when he could have easily thrown his toys out of the pram.
I think, like, you kind of touched on it at the weekend. I think he's been incorrectly kind of pigeonholed as having a bit of attitude. He's young, he's brash, he likes a bit of a swagger, and he's that kind of, you know, he's only 20, 21, he's young, he's full of attitude, and a lot of that is what you like to see. Like, some of the most dynamic players have that chip, they have, you know, that kind of way about them, but I think a lot of that is unfair. I have my frustrations with Somerville. Me and you have disagreed on him before, especially last season. I think at Championship level, I mean, he's beyond Championship level. He's a Premier League player. You know, when you watch the likes of Burnley, Sheffield United, Luton, and some of the players that are playing on the wings for them, he would easily get in above some of them. I mean, Leeds turned down 25 million from Burnley on deadline day. So, you know, that in itself shows that teams in and around that you know, that area of the Premier League are interested in him. Apparently Crystal Palace were interested in him as well as a replacement for Zaha. So he's definitely got a lot about him, and he has got frustrations, which I think, as I said at the review on Saturday, if he irons them out, he'll be an attractive proposition for teams top 10 in the Premier League.
Well, did you see Fabrizio Romano's tweet?
I did,
Saturday, regarding a little strange one, wasn't it? Because I mean, it says there he's got a good place at Leeds, but it's almost, you know, like, I don't know, putting teams on high alert, isn't it? That I think have a nibble in January and see what you can do.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a little bit of that. I think from what we've also been kind of led to believe, Somerville's reps and representatives and agents and whatnot thought it was good that he stayed and thought that it was good for him to have a year in the Championship, and I completely agree with that. You know, sometimes you have to take one step back to take 2 or 3 steps forward, and I think Somerville's in that kind of area in his career, because last season he had moments where it was really, really important, really dangerous for us, but he also had some moments and patches during the season where it was completely anonymous, and some of that was down to where we were in our state of play with managements and styles and all the rest of it, but some of it was down to him as well, decision making and all the rest of it. So but yeah, I mean, it was fantastic, and he was an absolute game winner at the weekend. He weren't on his own. There were some other really, really top performances as well. Gio, Rutter, again. I mean, the guy, he's just ridiculous. He's a bit of a cheat code. I mean, you sign him for 35 million quid last season as our record transfer ever. You kind of expect this player, who obviously we then weren't. He was treated terribly. It was handled terribly. The whole situation around it was just woeful. But we're seeing it now, and at this level, I mean, he's making some of these defenders look ridiculous. He really is. He's not the same as Tarapt, but he makes defenders look as stupid as Tarapt at times used to do in the Championship. That's what it reminds me of. Like, it's like he's just levels above. It's like he's playing with them.
That bit of skill that's doing the rounds on social media. It's like, that's just insane, isn't it?
It's just ridiculous, yeah. So it is a joy to watch, and I think like there's like I said, there's a number of them throughout the team. I think Pascal's really stepped up. Ampadu carries on week after week, delivering his performances that he's delivering. And the more and more it goes on and it clicks, the better and better these performances are going to look. So
yeah, good stuff. Steve, Huddersfield Town. A thrilling first 15 minutes, 2-0 up. Didn't quite follow on from that after. I mean, the match-saving goal line clearance from Heelick in the second half is incredible. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but it's absolutely phenomenal. Go check that out because it's something else. But Darren Moore's first victory in charge, Steve. So good to get off the mark for him, isn't it?
Yeah. The game was a bit like when you get a McDonald's meal, really, and you scoff it in about 10 minutes, and then you look at the empty packet and you think, oh, there's nothing left. So that was, the first 15 minutes, it all happened for us. We started off the game really well. Fantastic goal by Harat in terms of the move that Town put together, and Radoni put him through beautifully. And instead of, for a young kid just smashing it, he had real composure and slid it under the QPR keeper. So, massive goal for him, really, at only a young age, 21. And then the second goal came quite quickly, and within 14 minutes, we were 2-0 up. And again, a really slick move, played to sort of the edge of the box, but Radoni was sort of just inside it, and it was another cool finish. And he's starting to show all the belief I had him in last year. People kept saying, "Oh, they didn't think he was the best at this and the best at that," and he still isn't. He's still learning. But my God, he's going to become one of our best players for sure. I mean, the passing he's got. He's bulked up a little bit, so the physicality he's starting to handle a lot better. And if he can bring that, goal element which he had at Wimbledon, where he scored 12 goals for them, then he's going to be a hell of a player for us. So, and again, he's only young. He's still 22, 23. So I was really impressed with him. He was my man of the match, really. On Saturday. But yeah, it was weird. Like after the second goal, it was kind of just said, right, we'll stop now. It's too easy, and it was never going to be easy. Town never have an easy game, to be honest. We never win a game comfortably. QPR got their goal back. It was a terrible goal to concede. Backstick header. There's if you watch the replay, there's 3 of them there at the back. So any of them is going to head it in. And it was poor, really, the way that we conceded. And then the game just fell really flat. QPR didn't really have any quality. Adoma was sort of their best attacking threat with Cher, who, we know he's been a prolific man for them for many a year, really. I'm still surprised he's still there, to be honest. But, yeah, it just all was very flat. And then second half was just – it was like when you eat a bowl of porridge and it's gone cold. nobody wanted to be there really. I don't think Darren Moore wanted to be there. Ainsworth didn't want to be there. I'm surprised, to be honest, that they've lost the game and Ainsworth's not been sacked. If I'm being completely honest,
I've just seen that tackle from Hellick, by the way.
It's unreal.
It's as good as a goal. It's as good as a goal. That's wild.
He's like a ghost, honestly. The QPR man must think, where the hell has he come from? Because he just moves silently to get the ball cleared, and it's a hell of a clearance. And again, he's one of our main players now. We bought him obviously from Barnsley for around about $1 million at 1.5, I think it was. With add-ons, and so that was a great buy, and I think he's becoming one of our main players as well. Good in the air, okay, he's not the quickest, but he's solid, and so for the first win, I was glad for Darren that he got his first win, but my God, there's some things to work on still.
Are we getting a sense of his style or how he's going to play out at Huddersfield Town yet? Are you kind of, does it still feel like too early to kind of get an impression of that, or what have you picked up so far from his games in charge?
Yeah, the 5 games so far, they've all been pretty different, really. You've had, absolutely abysmal performance away at Birmingham where we got thrashed. We had half a good game at Coventry and the other half was abysmal. We had a great performance against Ipswich for literally 60, 70 minutes. Unreal performance against the top team. And then yesterday was a fantastic first 20 minutes and then a dire 70 minutes. So I don't think we haven't got any consistency yet. I think they're still trying to get to grips with how he wants to play. I do think he wants to play good football, and we saw that in the 20 minutes. I mean, I think we can deal with any or most, the majority of sides, Leicester, probably Leeds, and and maybe some of the better footballing, controlling sides. But the majority of sides in the Championship, we play like we did in the first 20 minutes for a consistent game, and we'll give anybody a game in this division. It's all about us creating chances, though, and that's why Radoni is so important to this team to be able to, to get some goals, because, young Harat, he's not going to, score 20 goals. Hoodling comes off the bench and I thought did all right. Gets mocked a bit for his height, but and a bit like what Peter Crouch used to do. But I think he's decent technically with his feet. Not the best at heading, but that's obviously for a 6'9" striker, that's not amazing. But I'm sure he's working on it. And Danny Ward's injured, and obviously Jordan Rhodes is in League One now, smashing him in for Blackpool. So it's kind of hard for Darren because he's come in and he's obviously working with the same squad Neil did, but even less really because of the either the injuries or situations that are going on. So, it was an important win.
Sorry, Steve. I thought you were finishing. No, go on. I'll come to you and I'll come to finish.
I was just going to say QPR were rubbish. They are a very, very poor side. Sheffield Wednesday, when we played them, they're a very poor side. I think Rotherham are very poor. But I do, from what I've seen, if we can have a consistent run, I do think we will pick up enough points and we will survive. But yeah, it does need to be better over a consistent long period. And I think he's been harshly judged at the moment because of the man that he's followed, unfortunately, which doesn't kind of help him and he's a little bit unfair.
I was just going to say, I think it's a huge win. Like the performance almost didn't matter that much. Like QPR are really poor, and they're already kind of them bottom three getting a little bit separated, especially Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday. They're almost not within touching distance already. And I think, given the circumstances around that game, I think however you manage to get it over the line, I think is absolutely huge for Darren Moore especially. Because he kind of needs to get the fans on side as quickly as, not that they're offside, but you know what I mean. Like, it's really, really important that he kind of wins them over as quickly as possible. And I think it's a huge 3 points.
It's difficult because if he'd have followed Fotheringham, he'd have been like, even with these 5 games not being amazing, he'd have been like, well, bloody hell, it's better than what we've just had for 16 months. It couldn't have got any worse. But the thing is, because he's following Warnock, he's now being judged at Warnock standards, and that's not really fair, in my opinion. That's like judging, when you've had somebody in charge, and then you go Pep Guardiola. Do you know what I mean? It's not really a fair comparison. So I think we'll see in time is what he wants to do. Obviously, January is going to be big, but I just think that I looked at QPR and I just thought, you've got no about you. I mean, the players didn't really look like they wanted to play for him, so I don't really know why he's not being sacked, to be honest. Our lads are trying, lots of effort. Tomorrow's game against Cardiff is massive as well, because I don't think they're amazing. Yes, they've had a good start to the season, but they've tailed off in the last few weeks. And I think it was earlier in the season when they played you guys. I think, Jay, you said that they weren't amazing when they played you, and that they were actually playing well at that time. So tomorrow's going to be big. If you can get 2 wins on the spin, that would be fantastic. But obviously, I know that we'll probably, hopefully, do a preview before the Leeds game. But yeah, to use Jay's anomaly, yes, you're going to absolutely destroy us.
It's crazy, though. What is it? 6 points separating from 6th in the league to Stoke City in 20.
But it's always like that, Steve. You look at the Championship, and there'll be, the teams at the top that run away with it a little bit, and there's a gap opens up. You always get some absolutely abysmal team at the bottom that just can't keep up, and then you've got the rest of the division from around about 8th to, from 6th to 21st that could finish anywhere really, if they go on a bad run or a good run, and it'll stay like that until the end of the season.
I made the point about Middlesbrough at the weekend. Like, Borough had the start that they had. They were absolutely atrocious. They were, I think it was 6 or 7 without a win at the beginning of the season. The run that they've just had, season 2 points off Sunderland in 6th. And
I told you.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
You did,
I said they look good, and I said their fans were all saying that they'd shoot up the league, and they've started. And just on your point, Steve, about how Darren Moore's handicapped because he's taking over from Warnock as opposed to if he were taking over from Fotheringham, I think me or you or even Mark Hughes would have been appreciated taking over from Fotheringham.
Oh, mate, 100%. You could have put a dog in charge and it'd have been appreciated. That's how bad he was. It gives me nightmares, mate. Speaking about him, I honestly, it's Halloween. Don't make me more scared than what I already am.
That sounds like Jesse.
Get a Fotheringham mask.
Can you imagine if you got a pumpkin face Fotheringham? Unbelievable. But yeah, that's the thing, guys. In all seriousness, because he's following on from Warnock, it's so difficult, for him. And I think we as fans want to back him, but everything's so new still. The ownership, there's been mistakes, there's been things said, there's a lot happened in this 6-month period that really you could write a book about, honestly. And it's kind of to use Jay's terms, it drains you a little bit to think about it all, to be honest. Yeah. And this week is, to get his first win's great for him. I think I agree with Jay. The manner of the performance didn't really matter because of the opponent we were playing and we had to win. And I think tomorrow, really, the performance for me doesn't really matter. If we get a win, we get a win. But there has, in the longer term, got to be a point where you've got to start saying, right, Darren, what is your style of football? What do we want to do? How do we want to achieve it? And then obviously higher above, how are the board going to support him with that? But that doesn't really come in until January, and we just need to make sure we get enough points on the board. I also think, I disagreed in our WhatsApp chat with Jay on this, but you said about Borough, moving up the division. I have seen nothing in Stoke and Watford, who I predicted to be quite high up. I've seen nothing in them two sides to think, they're going to go on a 5-game, 6-game streak to move up the table. Particularly Stoke, who are absolutely terrible.
And they beat Sunderland at the weekend, though.
Yeah. But anybody could. We could beat you on Saturday. I'm not saying it's going to happen. They're one-off games. Yeah, all can happen. But the other thing is obviously, you've got Plymouth moving down, which we said was probably going to happen. Yeah. So there's a lot happening in the division where I don't think anything really set in stone except for probably Leicester winning the league, if I'm honest, and maybe Sheffield Wednesday finishing bottom. I can't believe how they've appointed that guy in charge at Sheffield Wednesday. I think it's absolute madness.
They're just a basket case out there. They're an absolute basket case.
He's gone for right
to manage them.
Well, he's gone for. I tell you what, we'll put an assistant manager in charge who's been at a international team who's done crap for 6 years. But do you know what? He's clearly done a top job. And then we'll put the nicest guy in football in Chris Powell next to him. What?
So it reminds me of when we appointed Hockaday. That's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of when we appointed Hockaday.
Oh, no, it's not as bad as that, Jay.
No, but it's
You've got Hockaday and we've got Fotheringham. Like, every club's had a basket case of a manager. I don't know who Bradford's is. Probably Hughes, to be honest. But, yeah.
We've had a few. We've had more than one.
Yeah.
It's a similar case, though, just so left wing that it don't make sense. And if you'd have popped up in League Two or the National League, it would have made sense, and that's what Hockaday were about. It's just a bizarre appointment.
Mad, isn't it?
I see all your suggestions, and I raise you Michael Collins.
But he was a good player. I don't even know about Danny Roll. What was he playing in Germany's 4th division? Probably met Fotheringham, didn't he? Playing in Germany's 5th division.
There's a connection.
German football.
Yeah. Moving on to League Two, then Gaz, Bradford City. It was the return of Phil Parkinson. I think it's the 2nd time he's been back to Valley Parade since he left. He was there with Bolton before. An emotionally charged game. By all accounts, a fantastic atmosphere. How was the game, Gaz?
It was a good game, to be honest. It felt, as a Bradford fan, it felt like we were the team being managed by Parkinson. It felt like it did when he was our manager, the way we were on the front foot and we were pressing and we were putting everyone sort of came off the pitch blowing, we put a shift in. That's what it used to be like, and the fans are buying into it because obviously it was so poor under Hughes. This sort of reinvention as a front foot attack, putting a shift and having a go. The fans are buying into it and getting behind the team. And when when Wrexham scored, it was totally against the run of play, and the fans responded to that. And the roar that went up when they scored, sort of the encouragement from our supporters almost sort of drowned out the cheers from Wrexham supporters because we realised sort of they needed us and we were buying into what they were doing. And we thoroughly deserved to get back in the game. I think you could probably say that a draw was a fair result, but if anyone deserved to win that game, it was us. So it was just so refreshing.
Yeah, I think in the final 30 minutes, you had 65% possession. You had 10 shots on goal to Wrexham's 3. You'd won 7 corners to their 1. My mate, who's season ticket holder, is like, can't believe we didn't win it. Really, fully deserved it. And he's not the most optimistic supporter. Certainly hasn't been for a while, but it feels totally different under McDonald now, doesn't it? It's a totally different vibe.
Yeah, it's just like you said. That's it. It's just the vibe. Like people are so happy that we've moved away from this patient. Which weren't even patient. It was just boring. We're passing for the sake of passing, and we're playing it. We're playing quicker. We're pressing out the pitch. Trying to get on the front foot. We're creating more chances. We are going long at times, but I think you have to do that in League Two anyway. And I think Bradford fans, like I said before, when Parkinson was manager, we were very direct. We were always direct to Hansen and getting people in and around him. So, yeah, we don't really care. We don't necessarily want to have ticky-tacky passing football. What we want is tempo and chances on goal, and we're getting that at the moment. So everyone's just really happy. And like I said, the fans are buying into it, and long may it continue, really. Whether it can last long-term, I don't know. But at the moment, we just got to enjoy it.
You know the wild thing as well, guys, right? Sorry to jump in, Browner.
No.
Like we look at the top of the league in Championship, and we look at Leicester, who are 11 points in front of us right now, and we're in 3rd, right? You're in a position in the table where this has been kind of rectified early enough that you can sort something about it, because you're only 9 points behind Stockport, who are top. You're in 11th, and Stockport have won 5 on the spin. So when you actually look at that, you're only 9 points off top of the league anyway. I think you're only 2 points outside playoffs.
I looked at it myself. I looked at myself on Saturday and saw exactly that. 9 points off Stockport, 6 points off the top 3, 3 points off the playoffs. And if we've had our bad run at the start of the season and the other teams have it to come, then there's nothing to suggest we can't keep moving up. We've got MK Dons away tomorrow night, and then we've got Sutton away on Saturday. Sutton at the bottom of the league. MK Dons are dropping like a stone, or they were until Williamson took over. My mate is an Aki fan, and he was at their game against MK Dons on Saturday, and he said they were awful. He said the only threat they had was Moisen up front. So, I mean, just be our luck that they'll turn it on. It's his first home game and it in charge, and you don't know. But if they're as bad as he says they were on Saturday, you've got to back us to get something out of that game as well. So
you make me laugh, guys, because not all the time, mate, but in your serious point there, because you sounded like Dave Bassett when he was Wimbledon manager. Why do we need 22 passes to get to the goal? Why does it just need to be bang? It's there,
Yeah, especially at our level. That's what it is at our level. I mean, the further up the pyramid you go, I think you need to be a bit more, technical. But at our level, it's what works, and it worked. Like I say, it worked for Parkinson. We're a flick of a switch away from getting us into Championship playing like that. So, you know what I mean?
I watched Morecambe a few times when your old manager were there, and I know you don't want to talk about him, but they had Cole Stockton up front, and they had Gomez, who was their bit of quality. And literally their game was about getting it to Cole Stockton and then it dropping in and around for Gomez. And that's how they scored their goals. And that was it. And if you build it with a solid backline, sometimes that's what you need to do. You ain't going to see tiki-taka football at that level. It's got to sound like Sam Allardyce there. You're not going to see it. You're not going to see it. And I think, like, looking at the table, like, I've not watched loads of League Two football this season, but I think Crewe are always a really good yardstick to tell you about where League Two and League One football is, because they are always towards the top of League Two, I think, personally, when the division's a little bit weaker because of their system and the way that they kind of bring players through. It's all youth and whatnot. They get promoted when the division's a little bit weaker, and then they usually come back down, don't they, from League One. And Crewe right now are in third. They're having a strong season. I really think that you can still set about the division this season, mate.
Yeah, I agree. You've made the change early enough, so and obviously the upward positive momentum now of bringing, getting rid of Hughes. That's the biggest thing, I think. It's not who you bring in. Personally, I'd give it McDonald now.
I was just going to say. I mean, is it time? Is it time now to get that done? Really? I mean, he's kind of delivering what you wanted, really, isn't he, Gaz? I mean, you came on saying we want front foot, we want in-your-face football, want them to put in a shift. He's delivering that. Is it not just time to try and get this done? But is it a bit unclear if he actually even wants it permanently? I mean, it's a bit up in the air, but he won't get a better opportunity to start his management career, will he? Really?
One point I want to make is that obviously the fans are reacting to this football, but the main thing is that the players have reacted to it as well. Like Richie Smallwood looks like a totally different player. I mean, I've slagged him off, and City fans have slagged him off, and we spoke about what he did for that goal at Morecambe, and he was just oh mate, he just looks like he didn't want to be there. He's been a revelation since McDonald's taken over. He actually looks like the player we thought we were getting beginning of last season. He's finally sort of playing like we expected him to play, and he's not the only one. The two centre halves were brilliant Saturday. Smallwood and Gilliard next to him, they were both brilliant Saturday. You couldn't have given anybody less than a 7 out of 10 on Saturday. So that's the main thing, the fact that not just the fans, but the players are obviously buying into it as well. Regards McDonald long term, like, I've got my reservations, mainly because, like you just said, the vibe seems to be that he doesn't really want it. And I can kind of understand it because he had so long out of the game with his kidney issue. He probably thinks maybe I should just carry on playing for as long as I can and get some of that time back. The other point is that we've been here before with Truman and Sellers, and Jason, my mate Jason McEwen, who we have on here sometimes, he put a stat on Twitter earlier on today that the first 4 games under Kevin McDonald have been played 4, won 3, drawn 1. And that is the exact same record that Truman and Sellers had in their first 4 games. Now, that was in December rather than in October when they took over. But they were then given until the end of January. They were changed from what they call caretaker to interim, and were given basically till the end of January, which would see us through the January transfer window, I think was the plan at the time. And the run continued to the end of January, and then they were given 15-month contracts for the rest of that season and the following season, and it just went to pot straight away. As soon as they got those 15-month contracts, that were it. And it was as though we lost one game, we lost another game, and then they couldn't turn it round. They didn't know how to react to that adversity. So I think you've got to be very careful with managers in the first post, that you can see how they react to different situations. So at the moment, everything's going well. But if we were to lose a couple of games, or things were to go against us in a game, for example, how we'd react to that. And obviously, if he reacts to it really well and we lose 2 and then we go on and win the next 3, then that's different. But I'd just like to be really cautious. I think at the moment, if he was to get the job for any length of time, you'd probably give him to Christmas or to end of January and not do it any more than that. But then again, it's like you say, it's whether he wants it, and I can totally understand why he might not want it. So it's all a bit up in the air at the moment, and it's tough for Ryan, and I don't envy him. I really don't envy him, knowing what to do, because I don't know what he should do. I really don't.
It's funny, we've had this conversation a bit in the group chat this week, haven't we, about caretaker management, and in football or in real life. Like I made the point that I've been a manager for years, and I always recognised the fact that when I went in somewhere, especially in a recovery mission, so like if a manager had been sacked or there were disgruntledness in the team, or there were a disciplinary issue or whatever, it was really, really easy to go in and being like, right, we're going to have a blast, we're going to have a fun, we're going to take it back to basics. And I can imagine it within a football club, it's exactly the same. You get them all having a laugh, you're playing games in training, everybody's enjoying themselves, they're on the coach and on the bus, and they're playing cards, they're doing all them kind of things that they know that work, especially as a player like McDonald is. He's still playing Premier League football not so long back. Yeah. Like he will know what to say or do to get this to change short term. But I'm very much in the same kind of boat as you, Gaz, that I'd be very reserved in going down this route on a permanent basis, because you might find that it'll keep going like this for a couple of months, but eventually it'll start sounding normal. The pressures will come down on Kevin from above. You can't do this anymore, you can't do that. He'll then start getting feelings about it. It'll start becoming normal for him, and eventually you end up with the same problems that you've had before. I certainly would be probably looking personally at the Cowleys. That's where I would go. Especially, like you said, seeing as he's come from being a player, like one of his first comments was like, he's like one of them, and like they're all buying into it, and he's like, so if anybody calls me gaffer, they're going to get fined. I'm Kev. So it's like, do you know what I mean? It is buying into that, and like you said, I totally agree with what you've just said. That's the way I'm at the moment. He might get tested a little bit adversity-wise tomorrow night, because Richie Smallwood's suspended and Jamie Walker's suspended, so we're going to have to make a couple of changes. He's been quite he's stuck to mainly the same team. He's changed it a little bit with the wide players, but until Platt got suspended for Saturday's game, he kept the same back 4. Actually, Ash Taylor, who I've slagged off, came in and did really, really well. He thought he had a great game on Saturday. But to be seen whether the replacements for Smallwood and Walker can do the same. So, yeah, it's just like you've just got. I think we've got to ride this wave, this crest of this wave, for as much as we can at the moment, and then maybe when it starts to take a turn, then see how he reacts to that before we do anything long term. You see them players that have kind of been frozen out, he'll have been like, this is your chance. Like, I know how difficult you've had it here. Like, I know that, Hughesy was saying this and saying that. Don't worry, that's all, wiped clean. What about when he has to start making them decisions and start freezing players out and start doing this and dropping bit? It changes very, very quickly, doesn't it? And like you said, especially if he's reserved about sort of taking the job in the first place, and then he gets put under pressure to take it. Because I was talking to a friend earlier today. If we win tomorrow night and win on Saturday at Sutton, pressure's going to be absolutely immense to give him the job full time. So if he's going to feel that pressure, and he's going to, I don't know, I'm not saying he'd accept it reluctantly, but if he's always got doubts in his mind about whether he really wants to do it, and then he gets sort of pushed down that road and does take it, thinks, oh, go on then, I'll give it a go, and then things start to go badly, then they might even be worse than they would have been otherwise. Well, the thing is, there's some money involved in it as well, because he's probably got a couple of years there, I would imagine. Yeah, because he only signed in season. Yeah, he only signed in June. So I can only imagine that if he kind of reluctantly takes it, they'll have to pay his playing contract out, and then he'll sign a management contract. I would imagine that'd be so he then gets put in a position. Well, you know what? This is actually worth quite a bit of money for me right towards the back end of my career. What's the worst that can happen if it don't work out? Well, it was my first gig anyway. I can rebuild. I'll go somewhere. So then he ends up taking it when he's maybe either not ready, because you sometimes have to do that, don't you? He has to look after himself. Yeah, it is like he's spot on. This looks good on his CV at the moment, doesn't it? It's going well. So that's to go badly. Everyone who has a bad spell as manager at Bradford,
whoever they are, they can write it off that we're a basket case because we go through managers like nobody's business. So whoever it is, like Derek Adams, we said it about Derek Adams. He's gone back to Morecambe and he's doing really well. But you can just write it off and say, well, that was just Bradford. You know what it's like at Bradford. But yeah, I totally agree with what you say, Jason. I really do.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting though, because I mean, if he keeps performing well, if they're racking up victories, it kind of gets harder and harder to stop it, doesn't it, really? And get someone else in who then has to change everything and bring their own methods in and that kind of thing. I mean, is there anyone in the kind of odds list at the moment that's kind of standing out? I know you put a tweet out about Neil Redfern and how he seemed to be sneaking up the odds list there, but I mean, it's the same old ones, isn't it, really, Richard?
There's a caretaker manager.
Yeah, there's a caretaker. Yeah, absolutely.
The issue is that, like I say, there's nobody on that list that you would say I really, really want. Of the outer work managers, there's only the Cowleys who you'd say I'd be happy if they came in. There isn't anyone else on that list who I would want. I mean, people are sort of on about Redfern, and my mates have said to me, I hope that's because the women's job's available as well. It's not just it's not because he has been in the women's game, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So recently. So apparently the women's game as well.
He's been with a
confused.
He's been with a woman player for years, hasn't he? He's married to Lucy.
But yeah, the issue is, like you just said there, Brownie, like whoever you're sort of wary of making a change right now because it is going so well. Because whoever comes in has got to carry it on, and you suddenly you change it when he's won 3 out of 4, and then it sort of goes badly. Like everyone's going to be saying, "Well, why did you change it?" I really don't envy Ryan Sparks at the moment. He's got a really tough decision to make. Like I say, only the Cowleys on that list for me. Apparently, Carl Robinson ruled himself out, and we didn't want him anyway. Then there's I got told that Liam Richardson isn't interested. He would have been maybe the other one on that list that you might have looked at and thought he could come in and do something. So only the Cowleys of the outer work ones. In my opinion, the one who we should be looking at, if he would be interested, in go to Leyton Orient and say we want Richie Wellens. That's what I would be doing. If it was up to me, I'd be testing the water there, and I'd be using this time that Kevin McDonald's buying us to do that.
Yeah,
but the outer work ones, the Cowleys are the only ones.
Yeah. I pity for you guys if that's the only ones that you want. Christ, and that's I know I've got a biased opinion, but
in League 2 though, it's different, isn't it?
Scraping bottom at battle, yeah, League 2. But I still feel I'd still want to, offer guys one of these squeegee balls I got from my time when they were in charge, because the stress balls or whatever. You need one of them, guys. You got to have one of them when they're coming.
Well, they got mentioned in the paper today by Simon Parker. They got mentioned the Cowleys as being like, what happened was last week Neil Redfern shot up the betting list and everyone were getting worried. And then over the weekend he's dropped the Cowleys have shot up it, and he's put something about them being favourites for the job at the moment. But he's also said something about them being heavily linked with a return to Lincoln, which obviously you can understand with the history there and the fact that they've now got a vacancy. I don't know. The issue with them is as well that they come as a team, and don't they have their own recruitment guy that they like to bring in as well? I could spend an hour, Gaz, with you talking through what they will do to your football club. But we haven't
the Cowleys agent Chris Bell in here, is it?
But we haven't got time, Gaz, on this podcast for me to explain all the intricacies of the Cowleys, unfortunately, my friend. But it will come. When they get announced, I will explain it all to you. But
we'll have a special show if it's them. Yeah.
That is one of the things that they do like to do, yes.
Yeah. Just before we go, fellas, we'll get a quick prediction on the next couple of games ahead. Jason, Leeds, it's Stoke tomorrow away, and then Huddersfield at the weekend. What's your predictions, mate?
Yeah.
1-0 against Stoke to Leeds. 2-0 against Town at the weekend.
Steve, over to you. Cardiff tomorrow and then Leeds Saturday.
I'm just sad he didn't say 9-1. Yeah.
I think it'll be tight, and I think we'll score.
I'll go 2-1 to Town against Cardiff. I think we might just scrape something, and a 3-0 loss to Leeds, unfortunately.
Very good. Gaz, MK Dons, Sutton.
Not sure on the scoreline, but I think a draw tomorrow night and a win next Saturday, and I think 4 points, and everyone's going to be clamouring for K-Mac to be given a longer-term contract as manager.
Hopefully the players keep calling him K-Mac.
Yeah, Kev.
Don't call me gaffer. Don't
Yeah.
call me gaffer. You get fined. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much for joining us. If you've been watching, please do smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. And if you're listening on Spotify, please leave us a review as well. I've been Stephen Brown. Joining us been Jason. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you, pal.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, pal.
Pleasure as always. We'll be back later in the week, myself and Steve. I think we're going to try and do something out with preview for the.
I think we should try and have a little meet up, maybe, but we can discuss it, can't we?
And then there will be a post-match review as well, which is going to be.
God's sake.
I'm definitely hopping onto that this week.
That will be incredible. So that's much viewing. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and we'll be back again later in the week. Thank you.